And back again, Mr. Pierce. What is going on in the world? How are we holding up?
Yeah, not too bad, Dan. How about yourself?
Back once again with the Renegade Master, D4 Damager with ill behavior. The podcast is back in action. So here we are, up and running again. Talk to me, talk to me. So, Prime MMA shirt repping, big up Sammy Lever, the man. I can't do gang noises in the braps and stuff, can't roll my arse, but we move.
That's
How's
all right.
things been at Prime? What's been going down?
Yeah, been good, mate. Been good. Finally, sort of been able to get back to actual contact training and stuff, obviously, which is more than appreciated from all the guys. I've got a couple of guys with some fights coming up, which is quite exciting. Duncan, that you've had on before, he's got his fight coming up, and then one of the newer guys in our gym, Ibra, is making his, I believe it's his amateur debut. Yeah, but yeah, really excited for that up on Battle Arena on October 9th, I believe it is. So yeah, that should be interesting. So yeah, we've all just been working hard trying to get those guys ready, sharpening their own tools and that as well.
This is it. Duncan and Ibra, they're so lovely. So Duncan, again, met him primarily through the podcast, but again, through other people here and there, knew of each other. Now playing
Yeah.
Warzone together, an absolute gentleman, top boy. And Ibra, I met him through the Sunday sparring. So every now and then BST will do our Sunday morning sparring. And like
Yeah.
people from other gyms are encouraged to come along, get a bit more like, just general MMA rounds in. And Ibra met him as
Yeah.
well, absolute gentleman. So can't wait
Yeah,
to see
he's a
those
top
boys
guy.
back in action.
Yeah.
So yourself and your training then, are you primarily jiu-jitsu? Do you do the striking as well, the boxing, the MMA?
Yeah, so I do a bit of striking and stuff on the side. But yeah, my main sort of goals and passions and stuff lies in jiu-jitsu. It did originally start in sort of striking and stuff like that. Then I found out that I really don't like being punched in the face at
It's not
all.
nice, is
And
it?
no, it's really not, mate. So props to everyone who does it, because I couldn't.
They're meant to be your friends and they start punching and kicking you. I was like, I thought we were mates. What happened to a minute ago? And
Yeah,
we are talking about how much we liked each other. Where'd that go?
exactly. It's when they start throwing those calf kicks, that's when the friendship really gets questioned.
They aren't your friends. They ain't no friendships there. They look get made and ruined in the same conversation.
Yeah.
So, in regards to your interest in jiu-jitsu, where did that sort of stem from? What got you stuck into it in the first place?
Well, to be as sad and cliche as it is, but UFC, obviously, I think it's got to be the number one thing for most people in our generation now. But yeah, UFC obviously was my introduction to jiu-jitsu, but I was definitely one of those just bleed guys. Get up, bang, that's it.
Let me bang, bro. Let me bang.
Exactly. What a legend. But well, I was thinking about this earlier actually. I think my first introduction properly into jiu-jitsu and what started my love for it was EBI. It was EBI one, and watching Gio Martinez and Jeff Glover as well, like go through the brackets and just like I'd always seen jiu-jitsu with the gi, and I thought that was it. I thought it was like judo pretty much. And then seeing the no-gi side of it, I was like, I don't know why, it just sort of appealed to me a bit more. And then just seeing what those guys were doing, like especially Gio with like the rubber guard and stuff like that, that was the thing that opened my eyes. And I was like, yeah, okay, this is something I want to look a little bit more into. Started watching the EBIs and stuff like that, started following those. And then, when was it? Sometime in like 2005? No, 2015 maybe, or maybe late 2014. One of my friends had signed himself up to an amateur MMA fight. Wasn't part of the gym or anything like that. He just really, really fancied it, and signed himself up. So we started like training, inverted commas, with just basically a pair of crappy boxing gloves, going in our friend's garden, and then like sparring, but not knowing on earth what we were doing at all. Eventually started watching or like looking for YouTube videos and stuff like that, to sort of see, okay, well, I'm getting caught with this, what can I do? Because we had no idea about jiu-jitsu. Like as little as we knew, we was like, yeah, we know how to strike, but we don't know anything about the ground game, so we need to look that up.
Ground games was a funny terminology. There's certain things buzzwords you hear
Yeah.
Like the floor stuff, that's a good one. You hear they look.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, we started, like, I just remember starting looking for jiu-jitsu instructionals on YouTube and stuff like that. One of the guys I worked with at the time, he had the Gracie Combatives DVDs, lent them to me. We started going through those, and we just fell in love with jiu-jitsu. Like, we completely stopped stand-up sparring for like 2 months leading up to his fight, and was just doing jiu-jitsu and stuff. We did like a few sparring sessions and that stand-up, but it was mainly just jiu-jitsu. And yeah, like, we just followed through the combatives discs. I had one of Eddie Bravo's not enter the system, the Mastering the Rubber Guard. I had one of his books, and we was going through that, just trying to learn anything and everything. Yeah, that was like sort of the introduction to jiu-jitsu. Yeah, we started in my friend's shed, then the garden, and then in one of the houses I lived in previously had a garage, and we then ended up setting up there. I got myself some mats and stuff like that. Yeah, and just pretty much started training just with me, my friend Rob, and then a couple of other guys ended up coming down like a year or so down the line. So
Are you going to leave everyone
on
that cliffhanger? What happened to the fight?
So yeah, it didn't go his way.
Did it not?
Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, not. It's weird that if you you don't go to a gym, sign yourself up to an MMA fight, don't really know jiu-jitsu or anything. Yeah, it's weird how it doesn't go your way sometimes. But I mean, fair play. I still to this day, I have no idea how he had the balls to, one, sign up for it, and then two, actually go. So yeah.
I feel some of it's more naivety than it is courage as such. I mean, obviously there is the courage of it, but in the same vein of, you know what, I'll be all right. I've learned I tell you what, this brings me back to a point I've had the other day. So my friend Carsten, I do the MMA show with, he's covered in tattoos. You see him from the outside looking in, you think he's covered in tattoos. He sees that as gaps he's got to fill still. So the idea that a bit of, like, you know, the guys who get one tattoo and the whole time they're like, their arms are all rolled up in every angle they've got showing off. Like, they consider themselves a heavily tattooed person. However, someone who is heavily tattooed is thinking about the gaps they're trying to fill. And that same kind of idea that a bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. And that,
absolutely.
And I was that white belt for the longest time. I still am to that extent of, I learned the scissors whip with the triangle. I am unstoppable. The floor is my ocean. I am a shark. You know what I mean? You lions can't swim. And it's just like, oof.
Yeah. I mean, because we ended up like recording some of our sessions. I had a little GoPro that I got for Christmas. I was like, we'll just record it. Didn't think anything of it. And then I think it was like late last year, I was like digging through my stuff and found like the recordings of us sparring in a gym, in the garage. And yeah, God, I remember thinking I remember thinking how good I was. I was like, I am top, like, I am the shit. And looking back, I was like, yeah. And then like looking at it now, it's like, oh my God, look at the openings I'm leaving there. Like everything.
It's hilarious as well. If you're ever in like a fire, like a solid spar, and you watch it back, in the moment you think, I am in like some sort of like John Wick movie or some extras or something. Yeah. You watch it back, said there wasn't quite the ultimate showdown I expected it to be. It was a bit more like a bit of fatigued, like clubbing shots, not overly like, not overly graceful. But
yeah, just hands by your chest.
Not even that, just thrown from like the shoulders, not even the hips, just spinning like those inflatable flame tube things.
Oh yeah.
It's like that. There's so many questions, but back to the jiu-jitsu sort of thing. We were saying about the Eddie Bravos, the no-gi, and everything else. And I feel a lot of people resonate with that the same way you sort of were. Whereas traditional gi, it's always seen not quite rigid, a bit like old school martial arts. Like if you said to go and do taekwondo, do karate, the rest of it, you'd imagine it's very much, yes, sensei, this sensei, suck this sensei, excuse me, sir. What was that, sensei? That's a bit more the black belts later down the line. That's another conversation. But more so, it's very, cut and dry. This is very traditional. Whereas no-gi is a bit more like, I don't know, just a bit.
It's like the modern art sort of style of it,
kind of, yeah, modern art, a bit more like, a bit more, not crude. How do I explain it? You know how
informal.
informal, but in the sense of a bit more aggressive, a bit more what would actually work, a bit more like not so much that he doesn't, but a bit of grit, a bit of athleticism. Okay, would that really work? Push comes to shove. And as we see the athleticism, you see the different sort of games involved, you see the leg locks really taking that step forward, the lack of the stalling. Obviously, it's a spectrum of things. You get white belts in the nogi, and you think, what is this? What are they doing? It's the highest of the highs. And again, when I say crude, it's the wrong way of explaining it. But it's more it's a different style in itself, but I feel the appeal is a little less. It's the informal, formal martial arts. So we're still there, still respectful of one another, following the same principles without the same formal presentation of it, or not the same, or all in the same coordination. We're still doing the same thing in sync, the same katas, the same this, that, and the other. The idea is we all are respectful of the rules, the room we're in. We shake each other's hands, we crack on, let go when they say stop, and we say thank you for what we're doing. Don't slag each other off, and come back in the next day, and so on and so forth. That kind of, you follow it, but it's not as, it's still a cult. Let's not get it wrong. It's still our favorite cult. We all love and encourage.
Absolutely.
But let's not pretend it's same as like taekwondo, that kind of
No, they're worlds apart, but they're branches of the same tree.
Fantastic. And this is something you'd appreciate. People like Dave and Numa, people who've got black belts in different martial arts, the way they explain things, they use similar principles. And I love that. I love the idea that you learn and understand something. So say like the jab in boxing. Again, you could see that from a crude point of view, not a very sort of surface level of it. It's just they punch the land to hit and to hurt. However, if you're a bit more experienced, you appreciate it's a range finder, it's distance managing. It's okay, if you can land that, you can set other things up. And the same principle, that's a frame. That, okay, if you're going to stiff arm someone, why is a jab any different? You use that to set things up, keep your distance, and so on and so forth. And those principles can then cross over. And that's where MMA, I feel, takes that next step further. That these boxing principles, jiu-jitsu principles, they can start to cross over. That I know if I can jab, I can be able to shoot. I've got my range there. I've got my single legs, got the ankle picks, got all sorts. And if I've got my right hands, I can hide a step with that. The same kind of, I don't know, the premise still expands. So regards of the way you like to learn, how do you like to take in a new technique? Is it essentially monkey see, monkey do? Is it understand the principles and work around it? How do you like to take in something new, for example?
To be fair, I think it is more monkey see, monkey do to begin with. I'm very much a sort of, if it's right in front of me, I'm like the visual learner. I need to see, and then I walk around, see the angles and stuff. I go, okay, cool. I've got the bones bit now. I know what positions I need to be in and stuff like that. And then I'll get in the position, and then I'll figure out like, where am I feeling like it's not quite right? What am I struggling with to get to the position and stuff like that? And then I'll start, chipping down to the finer details within that. And you ask the black belt or whoever around, what am I doing wrong here? How can I make this better? So I think that's probably mine. Like, I like to see it in front of me first, get an idea of it, and then I visualize that and then put it into practice.
I like a lot of that. I like, because again, outside of the way of this is the way you like to do it, not just the generic way how you take in information, but I like the way it's a sort of you get an outline, then you assess where needs adjusting, opposed to trying to get it spot on verbatim as the coach instructed. More so doing it positional wise, but feeling it out, feeling where the imbalances are, feeling where the weight just isn't quite right, feeling where it doesn't feel as solid, that if you have an issue, then this, that, and the other. Because this is one of the most game-changing things I think I've found in training, at least as of recently, is what you think you'd do next. Ask the coach if that's the right thing to do, and open your eyes to how wrong you've been for so long, and how much you do is horrendously wrong. It's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. God, the amount of I'm sure my black belt would have a lot to say about the things I do wrong.
I think it's a universal thing. I think it's a good problem to have.
And definitely.
This is something to go into as well. So obviously outside of training as well, you've got a teaching role, I believe. Am I right in saying that?
Yes. Yeah. So is what you and I would have called a supply teacher, but they call it
you get bullied.
Cover supervisor now. No, luckily not. It's fine. I think I'm able to hold off the 14-year-olds. I've got the reach.
Have you heard this hypothetical? It's like, if there was a wave after wave of 10-year-olds coming at you, how many could you like kill until they get you? This sort of like Nazi zombies-esque style, which is
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Oh mate, give me one doorway, I'll be there all day.
Oh yes, you can't get the angle. That's it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
get tunnel, get a
Funnel
trainer.
them in.
There's an art to it. Get a little insta kill as well. You're laughing.
Yeah,
Pack of
absolutely.
punches. I probably shouldn't answer that question properly in case, I don't know, maybe Ofsted has a word with you, but we move. The reason I go into this side of things was more so the way you teach people versus the way you learn independently. Do you follow
Yeah.
similar principles? Is it more tailored to what you're learning? How do you find that crossover?
So, well, with teaching in schools, again, I try and do it. I try and do all of my teaching. So whether I'm teaching in the gym or if I'm teaching in the classroom, I try and keep it along, again, the sort of the bare bones of it. I try and keep the same. Like, if I can't explain what I'm trying to teach in simple terms, then I need to understand it better, because it's like, otherwise it's no point, especially when you're in jiu-jitsu. If you're saying it to a brand new white belt, it's their first day. If I can't explain something to them in the simplest terms, break it down to the bare bones, they're going to have a trouble understanding it. It's the same with year 8s and 9s with anything new you put in front of them. If I can't explain it at its base level, they're going to be, what? No, I don't get it. It's too hard. Like they shut themselves off. So I try and be as specific as I can. So again, with jiu-jitsu, like say you're set up the triangle, you say, okay, well, you grab both hands, and then with your left hand, you can push that in between your legs as you bring your left leg over. So you give them the specifics. Same in the classroom. So, okay, I need you to go to page 4, read through this paragraph, and then answer question 1, 2, or 3, or whatever. So I try and keep it, baseline as simple as I can, and then as specific as I can, because I find it hard when I'm in the gym and they, like, say a teacher goes, oh right, yeah, so you put their hand here. Cool, well, where's here? Like, I might be at a slightly bad angle to be able to see it, and yeah, fair enough, I need to move and see. But at the same time, if someone's not able to see the small details, especially within jiu-jitsu, because some of them can be so minute, then it just makes that learning so much harder. Like, that curve becomes steeper and steeper, because if they're missing one tiny detail at the start and they're getting everything else right, as you know, it can set everything off in like a shitstorm of just not piecing it together correctly. So I try and keep that principle across both spectrums.
I like that a lot. Again, that kind of Occam's razor approach is as simple as possible and have the minimum amount of complexities to make it as adaptable, but also not to crude as well. And again, similar to the way I'm coaching as well, it's very much do the first amount, crude as you like. So we're going to keep going over, build that foundation, paint that wall, get the first layer, keep coating it over and over again. And I like as well how you appreciate the overload of stimulus, because again, if you're 13, 14, anything more than a sentence or two, you stopped listening a while ago.
Yeah.
Trying to encourage that. And one thing you sort of touched on there was the importance, though, of the details. So this is where it gets even trickier, because you have to deliver that core amount of detail as little as possible, but also in depth as possible. Very much the nature of, you can say in a sentence what others can't say in a book. That kind of like the depth of it. Every single word is very, very like dense, and it's got to be very specific. Like,
absolutely.
It is a tricky one, but no, it's interesting. So, regards to the crossover, do you ever come into a class with black eyes and the rest of it? Are you quite good for that?
What was that? Sorry?
Do you ever come into class after training the night before with like black eyes and bumps and bruises and that? Are you normally okay?
Luckily, I haven't come in yet. I've had like my ear blew up a little bit. Luckily, it didn't go to like full collie or anything like that. But yeah, luckily, nothing left on the face for the kids to sort of point and laugh at.
Yeah, kids are pretty unforgiving with that stuff, but no.
Yeah, they are.
That's the thing as well. Like, do they know you train as well? Like, do they know when you compete? Do they know anything about that kind of stuff?
So when, because I was training at Prime before I started working at the school I'm at now, and one of the kids that was coming and training, he's now in 6th form. So train with him still, but one of my year he's a year 10 now, but he was year 9. He came in over the summer holidays, and his face was shock horror when he saw me standing in the gym. And he was like, "Oh no, it's," and yeah, that was pretty funny. But yeah, a few of them know. If they ask, I'll tell them. But yeah, only a few really sort of know.
That's quite cool though, because the thing is, if they say, "Oh no, so does martial arts," it sounds a bit like you don't know what it could be. Whereas it says,
Yeah.
"So it's a cage fight." They'll use that kind of wording. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't no holds barred. He's human cockfighting. And I'll tell you what, it's sick. Kids love exaggerating. Like when I do the kids classes at my gym, they call the cage the arena, the
Nice.
octagon,
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff. I think that is so cool. If I
Yeah.
said to like, I'm going to the arena tonight to train, they're like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
How cool
Just
does that
sounds so
sound?
much cooler, does it? Yeah,
Surf fights in the
exactly.
arena. Oh, that's cool. And that's a bit cool, but either way we move. That's the point as well. So regardless of the split of work-life balance and everything else,
Yeah.
how do you find competition training? Because training, recreationally every now and then when it suits, fill your boots, doesn't matter if you miss a session or not, happy days. But
Yeah.
the energy to do your job properly, the time to prepare properly, and also that balance of, doing everything well enough without, spinning all the plates essentially. How do you find that balance?
To be fair, whenever I've been like focused on competition or anything like that, most of the time I sort of go on autopilot at work. It just becomes sort of the hours in between the stuff I need to be doing. And then, yeah, once I finish work, that's when hopefully I can make it to pretty much every training session. I'll try and do, I mean, even now I'm still trying to do at least one a day. That the gym's open, but yeah, competition time, that's when it'll be like get to the gym on time, early if possible, get all the sessions out there, get some good sparring in. Days that the gym's not in use, find out the free times, get in there with some people, get some more rounds in, condition and stuff like that. But I think the balance goes heavily into jiu-jitsu. Like I say, everything else sort of just becomes the background. And yeah, autopilot for that stuff. Everything gets focused on here, on the competition at least.
This is something that's very interesting about people who have a full-time job versus people who train full-time and all the time, is the conversation of burnout. And this is something I've been on both sides of the spectrum on. And if anything, I feel the way you're doing that now, although it may not seem as much as doing everything else, the quality of what you're doing is so much higher because of the limited amount you get to do it. So what you're doing is much leaner. You get to focus on that session more, and after the fact, you can think about it more. Whereas if you're doing 3 or 4 in a day, the first 2 are pretty flippant, the third one's knackering, the fourth one's just getting it done.
Yeah.
So by the time you finish the day, you haven't even thought about what you've learned, what you've taken in. Obviously, you probably should be. And again, you make mistakes in learning the session. But after the fact, you're pretty much done reviewing it, trying to recover for the next lot. Whereas having that sort of divide, like, do you find yourself at the end of the week feeling like there's more to be put in? Do you feel pretty fried? How are you finding that? Retaining it?
Well, with regards to competition specifically?
With training the amount you are, working the hours you are, and everything else in between, how are you finding the amount you're getting in?
To be honest, I feel pretty good. I feel like I could be doing more. Well, I feel like anyone who loves jiu-jitsu, MMA, whatever it may be, when you're not doing it like full time, you always feel like you could do more, especially when you've got like guys who are there every session, especially like we've got the guys training for their fight. So I always feel like, yeah, I could be doing more. But with regards to burnout, luckily I don't think that I felt it too much. I mean, I'm 31 now. I turned 31 last weekend.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
But
I still feel okay. I think I'm starting to clear the cobwebs now from the full lockdown. I'm still not where I'd like to be, but I feel good at the end of the week. Like I might have like a little niggling injury or something like that, but I'll just let that rest over the weekend, and then by the time Monday comes around, I'm usually back to close to 100%.
No, it's good. It's good having that kind of split with it, and that balance already was made out for you as such. And obviously that feeling of wanting to do more is a recurring thing. If you're doing one session, you think about doing two, and so on and so forth, keeps on going and going and going. But again, it's more what you want, what you need from this, and what it gives you. So I'm going to ask you a few questions here, and I want you to be as honest as possible, but as honest to you as possible, not as generic. What does jiu-jitsu do for you? What does it mean to you?
I think it's, to be fair, at the moment, other than like the sparring and stuff like that, but it's my main drive for fitness. Like nothing else has ever really been, yeah, I want to do this. Like I hate running, absolutely hate running. I kind of liked bike riding, but yeah, always. But it was never something that I was like, okay, I can do this every day. I never found something that I was like, I want to do this every day. And jiu-jitsu is that. Yeah, it's the only thing that's made me want to go back for more when I physically can't handle it. Like, I get battered by someone for like the whole session, and the session will end up like, no, I need to go again. So yeah.
Mindset is so important, and that's the difference. I saw a lot of people either stick with it or they don't. Is that kind of what happens when it's not your day? Yes, when you're Byrne bowling everyone like you're fucking Rafa Mendes, getting all the tasty heel hooks like you're Craig Jones. What happens when you're getting absolutely squished? You're absolutely getting just absolutely demolished. Your guard's getting passed like a knife through butter. You just can't get anything together.
Yeah.
What do you do even after that roll, let alone the next session, the next day, the next whatever? Do you still show up? What attitude do you have? And that's so important. And that's why people like yourself are so important to have these conversations on, the people who aren't the ones who are committing their entire lives to these things, you know, putting all this stuff in this. Like, what do you do when it's not paying the bills? It's not anything more than a passion, a hobby, a time pass, or whatever it may be. How do you then retain that when it isn't this sunken cost of everything you put into it, which is a fantastic sort of attitude to have. So that was what it means to you. Now, where would you be right now without it? What do you think you'll be filling this time in with?
Oh God. Honestly, drugs, I'd imagine. I mean, before I did jiu-jitsu, I was very, because I do music production and stuff like that. That's what I have my qualifications in teaching. So I produce, DJ, try and do events management. But before that, I'd be going to the rave, getting absolutely
involved.
Yes, absolutely involved. And yeah, didn't really have a limit. Like, didn't have anything to go, okay, no, I need to be good for Monday or anything like that. And then found jiu-jitsu, started taking my health more seriously, started getting my eating right. I mean, it's still nowhere close to where it should be. But yeah, started taking everything more seriously, started taking myself more seriously. So yeah, I don't think I'd be in a great space, especially regarding like mental health and stuff like that as well. I know that jiu-jitsu for me is a great stress relief. Like, I can be feeling like absolute shit. I could have the worst day at school. I could get absolutely hounded with like personal stuff or anything like that. Go to jiu-jitsu, get strangled 20 times in a row, and I'm still gonna have the fattest smile on my face when I'm walking home.
So important. I'm very happy to hear you being able to be aside from that, this kind of stuff. And again, anything that you, after the fact, you like to take out or always happy to, always can have a conversation off the thing. But no, I appreciate you opening up in that space. In regards of that switch from the antisocial hours, the raves, and that kind of production side to being a teacher in a 9 to 5, where did that sort of change up come from? What stage did you make that switch?
I think it was pretty much when I started taking jiu-jitsu more seriously. I really didn't like I started to think about, okay, well, what's this going to do to my body? What's like being out for 28-hour binge or like just non-stop party after party after party? What's that going to do for me? Like, yeah, I'm going to feel like crap on Monday, but what's it actually doing for me? So I started, like I say, started taking myself a bit more seriously. And just trying to actually prepare myself for the future in that, because I mean, I was still quite young. I was 2014, 24 coming, yeah. So I was still relatively young. Wasn't thinking about the future or anything like that. So yeah, I was thinking about the now, thinking in the present, and that was about it.
This is a huge sign of maturity. I feel it's the forbidding the initial instant gratification for that prolonged satisfaction of the bigger goal, the higher purpose, albeit something pious, something religious sense, something more like a belt, like a grading, like whatever it may be, something more than the right now, more than the quick fix, more than the sweets right now instead of the dinner later on, that kind of idea. And it's an interesting one when you're in that pit of it, and that the pit of it is very dramatic, more sense of you fall in the habits. And again, I'm not going to disclose too much from my listeners to this podcast, but you can easily get in this habit of, okay, on Monday I'm doing this, Tuesday I'm doing that, Wednesday I'm doing this, maybe have a break then repeat, and so on and so forth. But then something happens, you have an injury, you have a layoff, you have something interrupting that sequence, then you form a new habit. And then all of a sudden, the one that was so unbreakable, you're dragging your feet to get back to it. When I had COVID, when I previously was training all the hours under the sun, it was a drag to go back on the Monday. I was justifying extra rest days just to prolong it, and going through a hump and back to where we are now. But either way, it's the same kind of idea that you need to be aware of this, be vigilant on this. And I don't know, a lot of respect for yourself for saying going through that sort of those habits, because it's fun, it's instant gratifying.
It's fun.
Right now I'm sober, I'm bored, it's a Saturday night, it's a Friday night, it's a whatever night is, and I'm just a bit like restless, because now you're missing out on that potential fix, the environment, the people, and again the stimulus and everything else. You feel like you're missing out, and then you have the next day of, yes, I feel fresher, but would I have had those memories? Do I think I needed this? But to then see beyond that point of, do you know what, outside of the physical health, it's the mental well-being. The calm down doesn't do wonders for your self-esteem, for your self-worth, for anything else. You think, you know what, if I wasn't already feeling exhausted, I felt feel depressed as well, so thanks for that. Absolutely wonderful.
Absolutely.
I know, it's interesting. So on that sort of subject there, what advice would you give to someone who's stuck in that, I don't call it a rut, but that routine of instantly gratifying, like nights out, the partying, to not sobering up, but making a change that might be beneficial? What did you find was the point where you made that decision to make that change?
I think it is finding something that you're passionate about. I feel like I have what they say, like the addictive personality, as it were. Like I latch onto things, and I feel many people have this. And for those that do, like, you can't just, okay, I'm going to stop doing that, cool, right, now what, now you're just left in this sort of void. So it's finding something that has that interest for you, piques your interest. Okay, learn a little bit more. How are you feeling now? Yeah, okay, I want to do this. You need to have something that is going to keep you hooked in there, whether it's lifting weights, doing your deadlifts, whether it is jiu-jitsu, judo, kickboxing, MMA, whatever it may be. If you can find something that you're like, I like doing this, and even better, if you can find people that you enjoy being around that enjoy doing those things, like people that you meet at the gym or just, I don't know, online forums, and you're just like, okay, I want to go for a walk around wherever, Ashridge or whatever. Cool, I also like to do that. Fine. Having people that you have that something in common with definitely helps break those slightly more, we'll say, comfortable habits, that comfort zone that we like to get stuck in a lot. So yeah, it's finding something, because I never would have been able to break out of the circle that I was in without having that, for me, jiu-jitsu to latch onto, to pique my interest, to make me want to spend every minute of every day learning or doing. So I think that's the thing that people need to find. Just find something that really interests you and put you all into it.
This is a huge thing. Again, appreciate a lot of your honesty and your vulnerability to have this conversation. And the detail of this is so important, because that kind of change of environment we touched on there is game changing. So I put a post up about testimonials of people I've been training with, and one of them was the gym training over there, moving over everything else. And
Yeah.
something I commented on there saying about a change of standards and norms and such like that. People may have misinterpreted that as the previous gym had low standards. I didn't say that at all.
Mm.
However, what I was doing, which I considered a lot, was less than minimum of what is required for what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
My old fight, my debut fight, that fight camp of training, what was it, 4 evenings a week in the morning and a Friday morning and another
Mm.
weekend. Like, opposed to the 2-3 days I'm doing now, X amount of days, and all this sort of stuff. The
Yeah.
standards you're setting yourself. But the biggest change for that was the environment I was in. I'd say what I've done in that day to my old gym, they'd say that's amazing. You probably do with the rest. You're crazy. I say it to people in my gym now, they say, then what? And this is
Yeah.
the point, and this is the new norms, this is the new standards, that not letting yourself get comfortable with your own bullshit. And on
Yeah.
top of that, it expands beyond that into the people you're around. Ah, what are you guys doing tonight? Oh, I'm training. Or worse than that, do you fancy coming to the pub tonight? That's not a bad
Yeah.
thing. But when you say, oh, no, I can't, I'm training, they then say, I'll go and have a night off. Just come and do this with us. Now,
Yeah.
having the night off and seeing your friends isn't a horrendous. It's not an awful thing to do.
No.
But is that become a regular habit again? Is that them not wanting to do your hobby, which isn't a problem, but then you're not encouraged to then pursue a passion, pursue something that is more constructive for you.
Yeah.
Now, you have a balance, manage to make it work. Do have you got to do? My point is, be aware of who you're putting your energy in. There's this whole expression of surround yourself with 5 winners, you'll be the 6th. Surround yourself with
Yeah.
5 losers, you'll be the 6th. The people who make excuses, you'll be another one of those. You're a product of your environment. And again, you may not realize it, but if you're with negative people, you then get a bit more of a negative light on things. People who are more optimistic, more encouraging, you'll try new things, take new risks, things like
Yeah.
that. And then you'll be
100%.
able to expand and build. Like, that's the reason why people like Sammy at Prime or James at Elite TC, people like that, I love those people because they're just encouraging
Mm.
people. They're genuine
Yeah.
people. You talk to them, not only are they telling you what they mean, they're not. This is a huge thing. This is something so important for a lot of people. Being honest doesn't mean being a cunt. They are
Yeah.
honest and authentic, but that doesn't mean they're blowing smoke up your ass or they're being nasty.
Mm.
Being genuine, being a genuine
Yeah.
person with a passion versus someone who's seen a couple of Bruce Lee films and has got a bit of an attitude. It's not the same thing. And this
No.
is the point. This is having these people around you, like Duncan, like Sammy, like whoever else, and the list goes on, of
Yeah.
just genuine people. People you spend time with, people who are going to tell you what they need to tell you. That doesn't mean you're not doing enough. It might be take a break, you're burnt out. It might be you're having a bit of a low period right now because maybe you're overtrained, maybe you're stressed too much, or maybe
Mm.
things at work, things this going on. So by the time you come to training in the evening, you're so mentally and physically taxed. By the time it comes to rolling, oh look, you guys just been passed. Oh look, you got caught by a lower belt, and you're beating yourself
Yeah.
up about it. So then you overtrain, and then it keeps going.
Yeah.
See what I mean? It's having
Yeah.
those people
Absolutely.
around you can depend on. And this is why, I don't know, it's such an important conversation, I feel, for not just yourself, anyone listening who's, again, I've got a full-time job, doing this recreationally, doing this however, but also goes out on the weekends, does these things. Again, I'm not
Yeah.
saying read your Bible and stay in at night. I'm saying just don't know, have a conversation with yourself. Are the nights out something you want to do or something you feel you can't go without? Because that's a big difference. Can
Yeah.
you sit
Huge.
alone without your phone on and be comfortable? I'm not saying be happy. I'm not saying it's not boring, but are you a bit restless? Are you a bit twitchy? Are you a bit like, okay, then what? Is there a problem being
Mm.
alone with yourself? Can you not be comfortable? Do you have to have that stimulation? Do you have to have the people around you? And this is where, like yourself, having that conversation with yourself of, do you know what? Enough's enough a little bit. These quick
Yeah.
fixes, it's not really enough for me right now. If I don't have my money in my pocket, I can't then fund this lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then what? What's my day to day
Yeah.
like? Whereas your day to day now is so much different.
No, I feel people that are in those sort of situations where they're in those circles that maybe it's not, or they're in those cycles, I should say, where it's not as good for, they're not doing what's best for them. It's that, like you said, it's having that honesty, and it's having that honesty with yourself of can you really, when you're alone, late at night, can you have a conversation with yourself, I'll say? Can you be true to yourself of, am I enjoying where I am? Could I be doing better? Could I be in a better place? Because if you can't be honest with yourself, you're never going to get the real answer for those questions. And that's going to be the thing that holds you back. Because if you're convinced that, yeah, I'm fine and I'm doing as well as I could be, and you're just sort of skimming the surface, like you're holding yourself back. You're never going to be able to reach your full potential. And that's the one thing that we should all strive for, is you don't have to be the best at something, but you should be the best version of yourself, because you owe yourself that.
Goosebumps. I mean, this is something, again, it's the improvement, isn't it? James Smith PT talks about this as well, and I love this. It doesn't matter where you are, it matters where you're going. Your trajectory is so much more important. As long as you're improving, you're making adjustments. Obviously progression isn't linear, but the trajectory is the important thing. Are you making ups and downs? Are you going upwards ultimately? That's the point. And again, like you said there, so important. Am I in the place I want to be? Yes or no? And if it's a no, why not? Is there something more I could be doing? What is the issue? Again, it hasn't got to be too harsh, but it's got to be honest. You got to be able to have an honest conversation. Yes, I want to improve my jiu-jitsu. Okay, do I want to train more? Okay, but do I work a full-time job? So what are you going to do? You're going to, your family and your kids going to starve because you want to get better guard passing like Leandro Lowe. So maybe not, Ombre. Maybe next time you're training, you see your sensei a question or two. Maybe you watch a couple of instructionals. Maybe you make a bit of effort somewhere. Maybe you do nothing but pass guard for the entirety of like January, why not? And see what happens. Things like that. It doesn't mean change your entire world, but maybe get more quality of what you're doing. Because again, this is a James Clear thing. I remember seeing the day after. I've read it, but it was a while back anyway. It doesn't matter how long you spent on it if it's still shit. Like if I spent all day writing you a birthday card and it's all misspelled and just crude and horrible, the fact I spent all day on it doesn't make it any less shit. You know what I mean? So it's a crude analogy for if you're training years. John Danaher talks about this. Don't aim to be a black belt. Don't let your standards be that low. There's a lot of shit black belts. Aim to be good at jiu-jitsu. And that is phenomenal. Exactly that. Don't aspire just to get your time served participation medal sort of thing. Aspire to be better and improve. Because that's the point.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like when we all got into jiu-jitsu, I mean, I know for myself, I didn't even know what the belt ranking was. Didn't know how it went. I knew you started white. I knew black was the top. That was it. Didn't get in it for the black belt, didn't get in it for the blue, purple, brown. That wasn't the thing. I wanted to get in because I wanted to be good at jiu-jitsu. I wanted to learn how to choke people unconscious in really weird, obscure, unconventional ways and all that kind of stuff. Like that was what I wanted. I couldn't care less about the black belt. And that's, I'm not saying you shouldn't care, but that shouldn't be the end goal. Because there's so much more. Like, I mean, every black belt I've ever seen a post saying, oh, I've got my black belt now, every single one of them will say the same thing, or along the lines the same thing of the journey starts now. And it's 100% like get into black belt, cool, that's great, but the journey's still going. You're just one step further than you was before. That's it.
Oh, definitely. And I encourage a lot of people who are very grade orientated to train nogi and also train in like boxing or something like this for a little bit, because you'll notice something. You don't need to ask, see, or know anything about someone's previous experience to know if they're good or not.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point. It's less is more. It's okay, how good is what they're doing? How are you applying what you're doing against someone who's different? You have a preconception of a bias of they've got a color on their belt that I know is higher up than mine, so they're going to be better than me. So I've got to be in my P's and Q's. Or they're a lesser rank than me, so I can either be a bit more complacent, or it's not going to be as tough anyway. Or I've got to now pressure myself to then perform to a higher standard. What happened to, we're going to roll, I want to try this sweep and I want to see what you do about it.
Yeah.
What happened to that? But anyway, my friend, thank you so much for your time. I've got a few questions to leave us on.
Thank you.
So first and foremost, obviously thank you for your time. So you're about to compete, about to make the walk. You see yourself. What advice do you give to yourself to perform in the best headspace?
Just keep calm. You know he's going to try some weird stuff. keep calm, bide your time.
There's some weird stuff he's going to try, but yeah, I'll be on my P's and Q's as well.
Yeah, I know there's weird stuff coming. You just might not know exactly what weird stuff it is.
Don't tell the missus. It's fine. Or sensei. Second one is post dub. You've had your competition, you've had your match, you got your nice plastic medal, you bled for and spent X amount of quid for your entry fee, love and life. On the drive back, what is the services you're hitting up? What is the takeaway? What is the damage? What is the celebratory meal? Talk to me.
Oh, to be fair, I haven't really had like a celebratory meal. The one I've had the most of,
a big silver medal meal, bronze medal munch.
Well, the ones that I've had the most at McDonald's, but I hate McDonald's. So if I could choose, probably a nice Waggers.
Oh my man, what's the menu? What are you talking? What are you saying? What's the?
Got to get a bit of yakisoba.
Oh,
got to get the yakisoba. Yeah, chicken and prawn. I think it is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll update after this anyway. That's fine. And last one, just leave us on, is advice to a day one white belt. Keenan, as whatever else, walks in the gym. What do you say to him to get him started on the right foot, or her, or them, or they, whatever they want to identify as it's their business?
Yeah. Remember the feeling that they have of when they first learn that first submission, the wonder that hits them. Keep a hold of that and just keep turning up. Like that old saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. Jiu-Jitsu players weren't built in a day. Just keep coming back. You'll get better.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, my friend. Social media, how can people reach out to you?
That's a good point. Let me see. Instagram's about the only thing. Pierce Jitsu, it's PIERCE_jitsu, JITSU.
Fantastic, so much. We've got a couple of sponsors to shout. The English hypnotist, Richard Hart, again, fantastic. I worked with them myself in the last camp. When it comes to mental set and anything you're doing, it's so important to make sure that's all in a good place. Again, it's hard to express the value of this. It's a very personal thing. I found it very beneficial. I had the best performance I've ever had. And that was the camp I started using him. Obviously, other factors as well, but that was a huge factor in that. So Richard Hart, the English hypnotist, so much time for him, genuine person, and supports this podcast. And Dan Good from Good Performance Nutrition, a friend of mine, again, very genuine person. He's a nutrition company. He's a professional MMA fighter, and he's trying to provide affordable, good quality products to as many people as possible. I use them myself, a lot of time for him. So Good Performance Nutrition and the English hypnotist, and all your podcast needs, merch and everything else included on fisticuffspodcast.com. Other than that, I think we're all good. Thank you very much for your time, my friend. Check out Pierce. And again, support people, share stuff, support this, and let's keep learning, keep loving what we're doing.